very warm welcome to We the People. How did an ambitious maritime project in the south of India get to be at the center of a national, political and religious storm? On We the People this evening, we're debating the Ram Setu Rao. It's come to be called that. It was actually the bridge officially known as Adam's Bridge, just off the coast of Tamil Nadu. But we're also looking at a wider question, and that wider question is, should religious sentiment influence government policy? And if it begins to happen that religious faith and matters of mythology begin to have an influence on policy making, is that a good thing for India or is that a bad thing? That's what we're looking at. That's the larger debate on the program this evening. I want to start with Devendra Dwivedi from the Congress. So something quite interesting happened. In the span of 48 hours, the Congress-led UPA government seemed to do a complete and radical about turn. It went from an affidavit that said that there was no historical evidence of Lord Ram to the law minister calling a press conference and saying that as sure as the Ganga is the Ganga and the Himalayas are the Himalayas, Ram is Ram. Should the government, should politicians be getting into the business of either saying that Ram exists or that he doesn't?
You know, I will begin with a caveat. I think that the past few days are a commentary on the fragility of Indian politics and the state of political discourse. What Congress government has done, Congress state government has done, is to rectify a mistake. The affidavit that was filed has to be seen as a separateness from Ram Setu project, controversy, and of course the faith. These are three different issues. Vis-a-vis the affidavit, I think there was lack of application of mind. I think there was an error of judgment. And the promptitude with which we intervened was not pandering to the religious sentiments, but responding to the public sentiment.
But should a law minister either be testifying to the existence or absence of a God? I mean, that's actually what I'm asking, because he went from an affidavit that said Ram doesn't exist to a press conference that said Ram does exist.
No, I think he was not only emotional, he was reflecting the public sentiment. Because I think that to debate whether Ram is this is wrong, either in a court of law or in public domain, I think is doing violence to divinity that is associated with Ram.
All right.
It is that sentiment.
Okay. As far as you're concerned, you concede the Congress made a mistake. There wasn't an application of mind, and that mistake has been rectified. Ravi Shankar Prasad, why isn't that good enough? You wanted the affidavit withdrawn. It's been withdrawn. You wanted the government to concede a mistake. It's conceded a mistake. It's even put the project on review for 3 months. Beyond this, isn't BJP yet again playing politics with Ram?
Barkha, let me clarify this position in a different perspective.
Yeah.
I'm also a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I have also the experience of being a minister, including Law Minister of India at some point of time. These affidavits are not simple affidavits for the change of name. It is an affidavit on an issue which is affecting the country for the last so many months. People have positions. Now, I don't see as an error, much less as an inadvertent error. Because I have the statement of the addition of Mr. Gopal Subramanian, who settled it. It was a teamwork. You have to see it in a particular context. Therefore, my charge with great degree of responsibility is that but for the kind of reaction which the country experienced, they had to buckle. But for that, they would not have. Secondly, I would like to highlight that since you began with that, do we need to say Ram exists? Why not?
No, I'm saying should the government say that? People have their faith, but should the government, do we need proof from the government of India?
There's no question of proof or not proof. Because if you go into that story, government is a part of society. If a question is asked of any minister or me or him, whether Ram exists or not, Ram does beyond time and space. Ram is an eternal here.
I get your point.
Question is completely misplaced. I would like to say it, because if you persist with that, that question will have to be
asked. I'm not asking.
Many faiths.
I am not asking. My question is not whether Ram exists or not. My question is whether matters of faith should influence government policy. Let me put that to this side of the house. Now, Subramanian Swamy, you were the person who filed the petition that started this storm to begin with. I put it to you that faith is faith, religion is religion. In the end, dignified faith is essentially private. Are you saying to modern day India that a maritime project should be put on hold because mythology has it that Ram's monkey army, that Hanuman, once crossed what NASA seems to suggest are limestone shoals?
Well, first of all, I must tell you that my challenge to the project was not at all based on religion.
It's not based on religion?
No, it was based on the decision of the government, which was totally arbitrary. Up to the end of the 90s, about 16 committees had sat on this question and had recommended a particular route for the canal. Suddenly the government changed it and selected this route, which was totally arbitrary. So I wanted first the court to go to the question as to why this decision was made.
So as far as you're concerned, the religious basis is not a relevant context for you?
I didn't start that. The religion was introduced by the affidavit. You see, I only said that there is a law in the country which is called the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites Act.
Okay.
Which says that any structure over 100 years is a fit case for investigation, whether it should be declared an ancient monument or not.
So you believe
and I had written to the culture minister many times saying that this Ramasetu should be examined for that.
Okay.
They refused to do that.
All right, hold that thought, we'll come back to that. Let me get D. Raja in. Interesting statement from the communists supporting the withdrawal of what has come to be known as the offensive paragraphs in the affidavit, but saying by no means should there be a stop on the project. The government has effectively stopped the project for the next 3 months. Are you disappointed?
No, my first answer to your question, number one, fictions, the so-called faiths, mythology should not come on the way of development projects.
Then why did you want that sentiment? Then why did you want that paragraph withdrawn?
They bungled it.
They bungled it?
Yes.
Okay.
It is a different issue.
Okay.
I am not getting into it.
All right.
I am explaining it is Sedu Samudram project. And since 1950s onwards, all sections of Tamil people have been demanding that project. All political parties are one on this project, and there is no difference. You will not find any difference.
The BJP doesn't support
BJP also. BJP is...
But the BJP cleared it in 2002, which is what I'm going to allow Ravi Shankar Prasad to respond
BJP is taking a hypocritical position at this point of time. It's a different thing.
Okay.
But BJP in Tamil Nadu supported this project, and what is understood, what is Suez Canal for the whole world, and this Sedu Samudram project will be so important for our region.
Do you think, Mr. Raja, that when the government withdrew the paragraph saying that there was no evidence of Ram, they did the correct thing?
We thought it was proper because that particular sentence was not at all necessary in an affidavit. What ESI has said, what others have said, it is science, and we should learn how to demarcate mythology from science,
all right.
how to demarcate theology from philosophy.
Fair enough, and we'll come to whether that separation is quite that simple for the times we live in. Quickly, and then I want Ravi Shankar Prasad to come in.
Number one, that no affidavit should say either that Ram exists or that Ram does not.
But your law minister said he does exist.
No, it's not a question of law.
But he did, at a press conference he said Ram
exists. He said, he was responding to the public sentiment and he was expressing his personal opinion.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, so far as Mr. Swamy's point, factual part.
Yeah.
This project was envisaged long time back. Mr. Vajpayee said that he's proud of this project. Miss Jayalalitha supported this project. Totally endorsed this project. So there is widespread...
Mr. Vaiko claimed it was his achievement in Tamil Nadu.
So let Ravi Shankar Prasad
decide it.
Okay, 1 minute.
It's not the right way to do it.
Ravi Shankar Prasad, before I come to the historians on this side of the panel, the BJP clears the project in 2002. And now suddenly in 2007 you discovered all these problems with it?
Well, my friends of the left have a chronic, hypocritical, pathological hatred against us. I grant them that. Okay.
And you're not being hypocritical.
you can't say hypocritical.
And you're not being hypocritical.
You can't say hypocritical, pathological. We are opposed to BJP. We are opposed to BJP. No doubt.
Let him have his say.
My opposition is not pathological. My opposition is not hypocritical. Yes, we are opposed to BJP. Whatever they speak, it is not in the interest of the country.
Okay, just 1 second in the silence in the audience. Quickly, sir.
Barkha, yes, we supported this project. We are not against Setu Samudram project. We are against this alignment which is going to destroy Ramasetu as we believe it to be. Why this? Why this vehemence? Why this arrogance? Why this adamance?
What if you need to demolish Adam's Bridge or Ram Setu, as you call it, for this project to be possible? Do you support it or not?
No, let's be very clear about it. There are alternatives available. Not only one, but 5, 6. Retired DG Mr. Badrinath of the Geological Survey of India has himself put his doubt. The Ministry of Earth Science report put his doubt.
Okay.
Therefore, on a larger issue.
Okay.
Why this vehemence? It has to be
No,
destroyed.
it was wrong.
from what may.
It was wrong.
All right.
No, when BJP was
Mr.
in
Raja,
power,
I
there
want
was
to
a
give-
review. There was a review. And
Okay.
it was
But-
agreed.
1 second. Let us
This
get
was alignment was agreed.
And let him wait for his
Yes,
turn.
I think
Okay.
we promised we would have an orderly debate. From that note, I want to actually get these two people in. Professor Swamy, let me start with you. Ravi Shankar Prasad says, and let's take his word for it right now, that there are alternative ways of completing the project. The larger question remains, is this a good enough reason to find an alternative way to have the same project up?
Well, Varka, I might disappoint you to begin with because you started with the question about the existence of Ram or not, and whether the government should really be
Reacting to that.
yes, in as many words. Despite being a historian, I would say that the issue of historicity
Yes.
is not really relevant in the present case. To my mind, the bigger issue is, with which I am more concerned and more interested in having it discussed here, is what do we do when we are juxtaposed between faith, belief and development?
Well, exactly. That is the larger debate.
I think that's the larger issue on which we should be really focusing. Because if we start talking about historicity of Ram, then I'm sure we are not going to take
So
a
do you
very
believe in this particular case that the government should have put the project on hold, given the religious sensitivities involved?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
I
not.
think the government has surrendered.
To what?
Surrendered to the religious forces.
Okay, so that is really effectively the larger debate. We are not debating whether Ram existed or not. I don't think that question can be answered historically. Matters of faith rarely can. The larger debate. Let me get you in, Anandita. Do you share Professor Swamy's?
No.
No, you don't.
I don't.
Yeah.
Because firstly, it is a matter of faith, and the people of India believe that Ram existed. And if you believe in Ram, all the places associated with Rama existed. I mean, why would people in Rameshwaram, which is 2,000 kilometers away from Ayodhya, where Rama was supposed to have been king, why would they be celebrating even today, thousands of years later, a king who, if he was fictitious?
But I'm not asking you whether he's fictitious.
Yeah.
I'm saying, given that it is a matter of faith, should the
Exactly.
is that a reason enough to
Yes,
review the project?
yes.
You believe it
I
is?
think all the places where Rama is supposed to have gone through and went through till he went to Sri Lanka, all those places should not be touched. In Sri
None of
Lanka, none of them. In Sri Lanka, they still revere the place, the Ashokavana, where Sita was kept. They are looking after all that, and we don't.
All right, ma'am, just hold that thought. I think Professor Swamy has zeroed into the larger debate. What happens when faith collides with a construct of development? That's really what this debate is about. Before I come to Renuka Narayanan, Sam Daniel actually travelled to what's come to be known as the ground zero of this debate. If we can just dim the lights and look at the differing opinions on the ground. There isn't any one opinion, even on the ground, on whether the Ram Setu, as it's come to be called, is reason enough to stop this particular project. If we can play that, please. Yeah.
Here in the vastness of the sea, believers say they can feel the presence of God, and maritime engineers the presence of opportunity. As we navigate our way toward the fisherfolk call the Nagam Thittu, the fourth of the 6 islands in Indian waters, together called the Ram Setu, we know a single boat ride will not settle the age-old dispute between religion and reason. The British call this 30-mile chain of limestone shoal the Adam's Bridge, but ancient Hindu mythology always knew it as the Ram Setu, and for the faithful, this is no mere coral and stone. Holy men, they say, once walked over these choppy waters. For modern India, here's the dilemma. Should these stones be broken down to make way for giant ships.
I am on the Ram Setu. This 30-kilometer long sandy bridge presents a formidable hindrance for navigation because of the shallow waters around. The present plan is to cut across this so that ships can sail through without having to navigate around Sri Lanka.
The believers say 30 extra hours of sailing time is a small donation at the temple of God. The Ram Setu must not be destroyed.
There is no scientific reasons at all. It's just belief of people, but it is in truth.
The skeptics say, oh, for God's sake, this is just all superstition.
It is the economic development along the entire coast. And it will also provide an opportunity to the Tamil Nadu government and the centre to try and resolve the fishing issues once for all. Today it is a burning issue. Every day there are 400 or 500 boats which cross over onto the Sri Lankan side.
Lost in the din of the religious battle are the more controversial dimensions of the project. Is it environmentally safe? This fragile coral reef, many believe, was a natural defense against the 2003 tsunami.
Canal is actually destroying scheduled protected species under the Wildlife Act 1972. Now scheduled corals are schedule 1, which means the same status as a tiger.
This controversy has also split open the religious divide between the north and the south. In a state known for its anti-Aryan movement, Ram is not always a hero. And there were no protests against the project till the BJP took it up. The Dravidians have rubbished the fuss as just another Aryan obsession. With Sam Daniel, Vandeep Singh Nandal for NDTV.
All right. We actually had a statement from the DMK Chief Minister, Karunanidhi, saying today that this is something, it's been defined in the South as an Aryan-Dravidian battle. Subramanian Swamy, respond to that. The fact that in Tamil Nadu, not one party, and Ravi Shankar Prasad may disagree, but as Mr. Raja said, even the state unit of the BJP did not oppose this project till it became...
Not of that state, I know correctly what the BJP stands there.
And
the BJP has always said, change the alignment. Don't destroy the Ram Setu.
They have not opposed the project. They have not opposed the project. Now they have woken up.
But I'm saying, my question is, this northern Gangetic plain perception of Ram is being imposed on the South according to the DMK party.
The problem with Mr. Karunanidhi is that he has not studied history properly. He says that Brahmins are Aryans. And then he praises Ravan. Ravan was one of the biggest pundits of that area.
Yeah.
He was a Samaveda specialist and he was a Brahmin. Now this man doesn't know that Rama was not a Brahmin. He doesn't know that Valmiki was not at all.
But then, you see, the thing with history is there are so many different interpretations.
No, there's no interpretation.
But there are interpretations. Professor Shivani would have a...
Barkar,
one second, Mr. Raja.
1 second.
One sentence, then I want to go to Professor Shivani.
No, because
Okay, make your one sentence.
Let us not abuse very respectable Chief Minister of State.
What is the abuse here?
No, you are abusing.
You are telling he doesn't know history. He doesn't know history.
You are abusing.
If he says that...
I can say you don't know the history. I can say you don't know the history.
If they are Brahmins or Aryans, he says that.
Don't take such low level. You have a civilized.
Okay, Mr. Raja.
As Barkar said. No.
All right, Mr. Raja, I want to go to Professor Shivali and then Renuka. Professor Shivali, this larger, it's interesting that a lot of the Dravidian parties actually have a completely different perception. You said not to get into the historicity of Ram, and that's fair. But is there a north-south divide at the heart of this debate, you think?
Well, such divides have been talked about earlier on as well. Honorable Karunanidhi is probably not the first to talk about it. But the issue that you raised about versions of Ramayana is something which cannot be overlooked. There are what can be called many Ramayanas.
Yeah.
Valmiki is not the only one, and I think there are all regional languages in India where there is Ramayana in one form or the other.
Okay.
And where the perceptions of Ram and Ravan differ enormously.
All right. Renuka, I'm going to come to you right after the break. We need to take a break. After that, back to the politicians. The larger question, we haven't addressed it. Should government policy be determined by religious faith and sentiments? If we do this once this time, will that set a precedent that is dangerous for India? We'll open up the debate to the audience right after the break. back to We the People. We're debating what's come to be called the Ram Setu Rao, and we're asking whether religious sentiments should influence government policy. What happens when faith collides with development and progress? Before I go back to our panel, let's hear some comments from the audience. Yes.
I'm a Dravidian myself. And if the Jewish state of Israel can protect Jerusalem and Bethlehem, and the oil-rich state of Saudi Arabia can protect Mecca and Medina, I don't understand why we can't protect what is associated with Ram.
So you feel that this bridge should not be destroyed?
No, the Ram Setu should not be destroyed.
Okay, all right. There's someone here who had a different view. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, it should. We should look at things from the development point of view. Religion should not be a focus on this.
You don't think religion should be a factor at all?
No, it's not a factor at all.
Okay, this is why there is a debate, because there are many different perceptions of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, when we say we follow Ram, why don't we follow what he preaches, rather than where he has treaded on or what he has done about? And when he has left his house, his kingdom, and wandered about in the jungles, why can't we just go about developing ourselves rather than finding out where he has treaded on, what he has touched, and what he has left out?
Okay. All right. So I think we have a sliver of different opinions there. Let me go back to you, Ravi Shankar Prasad. Would you concede that the BJP in somewhere defines its politics by the politics of Hindutva and therefore has politicized Ram? And somewhere your party has not learned its lessons from the fact that Ayodhya today, for example, is no longer an electoral issue for most people of this country, even the Ram Bhakts, even the believing Hindus.
First of all, let me respond to the first point. I'll come to the second point immediately.
Okay.
That this perception that is the Aryan-Dravidian divide is wholly misplaced. Jayalalitha...
No, that's what Mr. Karunanidhi has said today.
Let me respond, Barkha, please.
Okay.
Jayalalitha, as a powerful political leader of a political party, has openly supported it. Cho Ramaswamy...
He changed the position, actually.
Cho Ramaswamy was with me on many programs. He's a powerful voice in Tamil Nadu. Vanita is here. She is opposing it. He is there. Therefore, don't, because of one politically convenient statement of Mr. Karunanidhi, take a position that is an Aryan-Dravidian divide. I would like to clarify it. As an allegation against the BJP is concerned, we have got every right to say that if pseudo-secularism is practiced, now being sadistic secularism, and I say with full sense of responsibility, but for the outrage India felt, including an article by you in Hindustan Times, this government would not have changed its stand on
But my article also said that I thought the BJP was being politically hypocritical.
I'm responding to that.
Yes.
You see, I will give you 4 instances why I say that. You know you cannot give religion-based reservation. You go for it. IMDT Act was set aside by Supreme Court. You bring the same law. You say minorities have the first right over budgeting in the countries.
Okay.
These are coming. Okay. So the point is, we always say justice to all, appeasement of none. As far as Ram is concerned,
quickly, sir, I want to give you a chance now.
Ram is concerned, if an issue of Ram Setu is sought to be politicized for compensatory politics arising out of nuclear deal, then it becomes a serious issue. We have to raise
let Mr. Dwivedi respond to that. All right, Mr. Prasad, you had your say. Devendra Dwivedi. No, there are people like Professor Srivali here and many others who say the Congress has actually fallen into the BJP trap with how it's handled.
No, we are not.
But let me put it to you. The question is that you have actually played into the same dangerous mix of religion and politics with how you've handled this controversy. You could have either planned the affidavit better or not done such a dramatic turnaround. You would say what?
Congress is very clear about the fundamentals. We are a secular society. Faith is,
you disown Mr. Bhardwaj's statement?
Faith belongs to private domain. So far as the nation state is concerned, it is concerned with the secular concerns of the country and respond to that.
Is it
now,
secular,
having said that,
is it secular, sir, to put a project on hold because of religious sentiments?
No, now I am coming. There is one thing, one is to politicize a particular issue.
Yeah.
And the other is that Ram occupies a very important place in the collective consciousness of the people of this country, particularly Hindus.
Okay.
History and mythology, relationship is very clear. Mythology is nothing but imagined history. And there are lots of mythology and myths around various historical facts.
And
having said that,
yes.
I'm just completing.
Yes.
Therefore, it is a question of governance making choices. And choices means reconciling the conflicting interests, societal interests.
Okay, fair
and
enough.
at a particular point of time, a responsible government, a democratic government, feels that overall there is a feeling that this is a matter which needs to be considered afresh and anew.
Okay.
taking into consideration the ecological part, the economic part.
You made your point. Let me get Mr. Raja and Subramanian Swamy. And Mr. Raja, you said earlier, but you never explained, you thought the government had bungled. Where have they bungled?
No, the affidavit which they first
The first
filed,
one or the second one?
first one was also bungled. Second one equally bungled, because now what happens?
They are the allies of the in the UK. That's interesting.
No. The point is.
Okay, wait. Sir, let him speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Affidavit is a political, legal position taken by the government.
Yeah.
And government should take up the responsibility for whatever it does in the court of law.
Yeah.
Instead of that, some 2 officers of ASI have been suspended.
So they've been made scapegoats.
I do not agree with that.
I was going to actually come to that.
So, having said this, I must say this mixing of religion and politics is dangerous for the country. And if you do that, and you cannot expect any bright future for this country. Okay. And as I agree with our professor of history, that it is question of whether mythology or development.
All right. Subramanian Swamy, you said at the beginning that religion was not your reason. You merely asked the Culture Ministry to look at whether this was a historical monument.
That's
yes?
Right. That's right.
But the debate has become about faith versus development.
Yes.
Which side are you on in that debate?
Well, certainly I'm against the breaking of the Rama Setu. I also know that it is possible to reconcile the needs of development, namely the project, keeping the project intact and protecting Rama Setu.
So it's not either or?
It's not an either or in this case. The politics has been introduced by those who selected this new alignment, totally arbitrarily.
Okay.
And it is Mr. Karnanidhi who should be held responsible.
We'll come back to that. I just want to get, Mr. Raja, 1 second. I want to get Renuka in. Is it possible, is this in some ways how secularism needs to reinvent itself in India? That it needs to reconcile faith and progress and not see them as mutually exclusive, which is somehow the construct we've always operated by?
Absolutely. I don't see why we can't have both.
Yeah.
Have our important religious sites and have the channel. And actually, I mean, I really want to know how valuable is this sea route actually going to be, and how much of it is going to benefit us and how much of it is going to benefit the people who will be handing out contracts.
But that's about the project. You believe that the mythology behind it is reason enough to review the project?
I think so.
You think it is?
Of course, because a lot of cultural sentiment and identity is tied up with it. And I think it's really rude and uncaring.
Rude and uncaring, Professor Srimali.
I'm sorry, it's a regretful observation.
Right.
I just don't agree with this kind of assessment about state policies. And I am very categorical about it. But as far as matters of state are concerned, such concerns as those are centered on belief system should not have any place.
According to you, a secular state must be divorced from religion or must treat all religions equally?
Well, I would like to think it divorced completely from religion. It may not be acceptable to many.
Out of sync with the rest of the most of the country.
Convenient for others
she's saying, Renuka, what are you saying?
I said he's out of sync, like many Indian academicians, with most of the country.
Okay, so this is a different perception.
Get a reality check, Prof.
Okay. Get a reality check, says Renuka Narayanan, though many people would believe that the mix of religion and politics, as D. Raja said, is destructive. We need to take a break. After that, how did religion come to be so politicized in this country? And if the state is not divorced from belief, myth, ritual, religions, can we call ourselves a modern state? We'll look at that after the break. Welcome back to We the People. The Ram Setu controversy is really a wider debate about secularism. Does a secular state need to be divorced and stand apart from religion, or does it need to basically celebrate all religions equally? Would that mean a dangerous mix of religion and politics? Before we come to our panel, some voices from the audience. Go ahead, ma'am.
Exactly. Why the government is making statements like whether Ram exists or does not exist? Why don't emphasize on the merits and demerits of the project?
That to you would be a more intelligent debate.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a fair comment. That for example, the environmental debate around the project has rarely made it to the national headlines or to political debates. Go ahead.
The marginalization of religion to accommodate progress
may not necessarily mean the trivialization of religion.
Okay, so that's a different, more complex view. Yeah.
Yeah, and today it's about Lord Ram, but tomorrow it could be, faiths within the religion, and it could be about other faiths in the country. So where exactly are we going to stop this?
So you're apprehensive that if you allow it this time, where will it stop?
Where will it stop? And the debate is about the economic development versus the religion. So balance has to be maintained, and the society is really bound by the cultural beliefs and the mythology. It revolves around the mythological beliefs.
Okay, so once we allow one myth to influence government policy, where do we stop?
Yeah, if the focus is more about whether the environment gets affected or something, it's understandable, but not just the fact that it should be on a myth.
So we've heard all sorts of voices, really, those who believe that the debate could be about other things, those who believe that religious faith is enough of a reason. You were saying to me in the break, let's call it the Ram Setu's Samudram
we can
project.
change the name. We can say Ramar Setu Samudram project. What's wrong in it?
All right, Ravi Shankar Prasad and Devendra Trivedi, let's come back to the politics of this. You've heard many different voices, which is why there isn't a consensus. But how do we escape the larger thing that gentleman asked? Once you allow this once, where will you stop?
There is a very easy way out.
Which is?
And the political process of India has responded to that. Something which is a part of our cultural heritage, in our folklore consciousness, don't touch it.
But everything is a part of our cultural heritage.
But I have a problem today, you don't allow me to speak.
Okay, you speak.
Please.
You speak.
If there is a simple mazar on a road,
yes,
or a Hanuman temple on encroached land, no one will make an issue out of it. But if it is a part of our cultural consciousness, what she rightly said, you have to take notice of it. Why Mahatma Gandhi talked of Ram Raj? Why there is Hey Ram on Raj Ghat? These issues cannot be ignored. And let me give an example which may bear very close scrutiny. In Agra, a lot of petrochemical complexes came about. They were generating revenue, giving employment. But Taj Mahal was getting adversely affected.
Yes.
Supreme Court intervened. And so many employments, I know so many people met us, but they had to go without job.
Then is it comparable?
No,
it
is comparable. It is comparable. Because Taj Mahal is there. We all respect it. It is an icon of India, which needs to be protected. Similarly, Rama Setu is a part of our cultural icon of India.
Okay.
That's what I am trying to say.
Okay.
Therefore, if there is an alternative route, again let me come to the point.
Yeah.
Why this vehemence? Why this arrogance?
Let Mr. Raja respond to that.
Which they have stated.
All right.
That's what I want to say.
Okay, all right. Mr. Raja, if both are possible, why argue against it?
Well, firstly, one should understand, when they were in power, Mr. Arun Jaitley was minister, a thorough review was undertaken. And
that is wrong, Raja.
No, I am telling you, I have papers. If you want, if you want, I can put his documents. I will not come empty hands. I will come with the documents.
He wants the document. Mr. Raja, he wants the document. Okay, let's go.
I can show.
Okay, make a larger point.
The point is, a thorough review was made. And during this review, the ecological aspect was also considered. How to protect corals, how to protect marine park, everything was discussed.
But that doesn't answer my question.
No,
my question is, if both is possible.
I am telling you. Then the Baba Institute was also involved in the reviews. Yes, so a thorough review was undertaken. After that, the present alignment was agreed upon by all scientific community, all technicians involved in this.
Okay.
Now, this Setu, what you are discussing now, there was a controversy. They claimed it was man-made, and they brought NASA report, and finally everything has been proved. Even NASA has admitted it was one of the Tambalos, and it was natural formation, and it is.
So it can't be compared to the Taj Mahal, according to you.
Yeah,
all right, Mr. Dwivedi. Yes.
3 points.
Yes.
One is showing respect for religion.
Yeah.
The other is politicization of religion.
Yes.
Listen, you have raised such a basic question.
Yeah.
What is secularism?
Yeah.
Secularism has 3 meanings. Respect for all the religions.
Yeah.
Right to religion. Mutual respect. And state having nothing to do with the religion, neither promotes any religion nor opposes any religion. A line which connects me with the Almighty is religion. The line which connects me with the state and the institutions is politics. But there is no line which connects the state and the Almighty, because Almighty has no politics and politics
But our politicians don't behave like that.
No,
you see, this is the problem.
This is the parameters. Now, if we start thinking,
present company is always excluded.
Now, if a situation has arisen in this country, where if the Indian state does something to uplift the poor minorities, it is pseudo-secularism. If we do something for Taj Mahal, it is pseudo-secularism. Now, if secularism or if secularism or pseudo-secularism are being bandied about in this manner, I think there can never be a reasoned debate.
Okay.
In this particular case, I think a committee, government has taken a decision to review.
If your Prime Minister inaugurated this project, just like Prime Minister Vajpayee endorsed it, so did Prime Minister Manmohan Singh.
Naturally.
After investing such a huge money,
again I'm saying, responding to public opinion, Raja, take it easy, responding to the public opinion, public opinion will run.
Your allies don't do it.
No, you can suspend the project like this.
All right. Mr. Raja, I want to go to Professor Shrimal quickly.
Just to a small point.
Yes.
He says so much money has been spent, etc. When the Delhi Metro, all the investments were made and the tunnels were dug, suddenly some group came and said the vibrations from the metro will destroy the Qutub Minar. So the route was changed. Now, what is the difficulty in changing the route here?
Don't equate both. When you discuss...
All right, that is really the debate, that are we discussing Ram Setu or limestone?
You are bringing all mythology, fiction, faith, everything. And what is this? You believe in science, you believe in development, you think of this country and its development, you think of the poor, how this project will help not only
let me go to the two historians, Professor Shrimali and then Professor Shrimali.
Well, I think if it is a question of having both, then I think we need to focus on the definition that UNESCO has given about heritage.
Which is?
Which is including not only man-made monuments, but also natural landscape, rock formations, and so on and so forth. And I would have imagined that for a project such as this, the way in which Adams Bridge has been constituted, its geological significance would have been more pronounced. And in that case, you could have gone ahead with the argument that here is a formation which is worth preserving naturally, rather than on religious ground. And responding to Mr. Prasad's observations, let us not forget that hundreds of structures of varied religious significance, great archaeological sites were allowed to be submerged in the Narmada projects.
Okay, Professor Krishna.
Yes. Barkha, what I want to say is this Aryan-Dravidian divide is a very wrong thing to say. You know, don't forget, Kamban wrote the Ramayana in the 12th century. And even today, the Kamba Ramayana is one of the most beautiful works, and he celebrates Rama. I mean, he praises him in no uncertain
fact that the dominant discourse on Ram has become a northern Indo-Gangetic plain
Maybe there is, but there are enough Rama temples, Hanuman temples in Tamil Nadu for people there who genuinely believe in Rama and Hanuman, and they are our gods as much as anyone else. And let's also not forget Rama and Krishna are the two figures who united India before this nation of Bharat that is India came into being. Rama and Krishna were the two unifying, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata were the two unifying epics of this country. Every grandmother told her grandchild the story.
Well, you know, in some parts of the world that's called old wives' tales. So I don't know if grandmother's tales are now going to define politics of India. But Renuka, I want to add to what you said. You said to Professor Shrimali, outdated, out of sync with people. Would you then apply the same principles to, for example, the BJP's agitation in Ayodhya, where it's Ram Mandir hona chahiye because that's what people... What's the difference?
I completely don't identify with the BJP. I don't like the way they've tried to grab Ram and make him a political symbol.
And why is this different?
This is different simply because there is this whole cultural association with a... You know, here everybody's actually happy. Everyone can be made happy here. The environmentalists, the culturati, the believers, the project people. I see this amazing, you know, reconciliatory process possible. And I find it boring and disgusting that everybody is picking it into pieces and fighting over it. You know?
Okay, on that note, we will take a break. Renuka makes the point that a reconciliation is possible, so why not? Those who say why not say it would set a dangerous precedent for India. What are they scared of? We'll look at that in the last segment. Why is it that when the Adams Bridge or the Ram Setu, as some people call it, is debated, nobody talks about the environmental controversy, nobody talks about the geological history? Instead, why has the debate come down to a matter of faith? And if it has, should that decide what the government does next? Before we return to our panel in this last segment, some comments from the audience. Yes.
On the one hand, you say the Ramayana and the Mahabharata is a mythology, right? And then on the other hand, you say Ram is a myth. Aren't the two contradicting each other?
You're saying why is there a problem if we say Ram is a myth, if we accept
everyone accepts that the Ramayana is a mythology, right? But everyone has a problem with calling Ram a myth.
Okay, so you don't get that. You're saying why the fuss over the fact that the historicity of Ram has been questioned. Okay, there was somebody here who had a point.
Yes, I want to say that we should rise above these things and we should look into the merits of the project, which is like we're going to save 700 kilometers of traveling distance of the ship and 30 hours of the traveling distance, traveling time. So we should see how much amount of energy this is going to save, and we should, look into the betterment of the project.
Okay. Two last comments from the audience. Yes.
India is largely a democratic secular country. On what basis are you separating the feelings and emotions of the people from the decisions you're going to take? I mean, you are largely working for them. It's not possible, and also the environmental issue needs to be given more importance.
Okay, let's take just somebody here in the audience who actually says you can prove that Ram historically existed.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
See, I have given date. Exact date, precise date to the lifetime of Lord Ram, from the date he was born and till he was 39 years of age when he returned to Ayodhya from Lanka. Exact dates can be found, and
so for you it's not myth,
absolutely,
okay.
Without an iota of doubt, I can prove, and I have compiled it as a book, and it is in public domain for last 4 years. It's for people who are on the opposite side to find what kind of lacunas they find there.
Okay.
And tell me.
Okay, hold that thought. Let me get the historians in. We're back. We've completed full circle from NASA saying there's no evidence that this was anything but a natural formation to somebody says you can actually prove here's the date on which this man was born.
I think we should add here that he doesn't show astronomy.
NASA said that. NASA said there is no. Okay. So we will look at the NASA statement in just a minute. Professor Swamy, you made a point earlier that it cannot be about historicity. Yet can we escape our history? Because for many people that separation between history and myth and culture and religion, they all kind of blur into one another. A lot of people just don't know because we're not trained historians.
Well, trained historians are able to separate history and myth instead of mythologizing history. That's where the problem lies. Whether you want to treat mythology as synonymous with history, as a student of history, as a professional historian, I would find it difficult to accept that.
And you believe that's what's happening here?
I think that's what's happening here.
No, I beg to differ over here, because if you take the root of Rama, okay, you're saying...
Are you saying it's history and not mythology?
Yes, I'll tell you why. You have tribes like the Sabras, who are in Orissa, who are not part of the main Hindu, they don't worship like the regular Shiva Vishnu. Yet they have a tradition that Rama came and lived among them. Then you have
the Bellari oral histories, they don't necessarily exist empirically.
Yes, the oral history is history. I mean, does that mean the Sabras have no history? In Bellari district gazetteer, you have enough reference that Vanaras existed.
Okay, I want to hold you both there because at least I'm not trained enough to contest this on a matter of history. The point is, does it matter? I think as Professor Swamy said in the beginning. Let's come to NASA. Ravi Shankar Prasad, what I find contradictory in the BJP position is, you either take the position that a matter of faith is not a matter of science, and a matter of faith therefore should influence government policy, or you set about trying to prove that even NASA said Ram existed, or this was made by man. Which one is it?
NASA part, I'm having the government affidavit, which was filed in Supreme Court.
Yes.
And let me read only this part of this. It is respectfully submitted. NASA has publicly clarified that although these images were taken by NASA spacecraft, NASA is not responsible for any interpretation made by third parties of such images. Therefore,
but your party used it actually
I have never said that. We are only saying there is scientific evidence of the existence of the bridge. Okay? Only that part. But
not whether it's natural or man-made.
Just a minute.
Not whether it's natural.
That's what debating. NASA has never said it is not a bridge or it is a bridge. Okay. NASA has disowned it. Okay. That clarification I am making.
All right. Subramanian Swamy. Yes.
May I say that there cannot be historical determinism on what is mythology, what is not.
Okay.
For example, take the Saraswati River.
Yeah.
For years, decades it was held that it was mythology. Because Vedas go on talking about Saraswati and there is no Saraswati. Now satellites have proved that there is a Saraswati, it's below the ground. Similarly, Dwarka. Vishnu Purana said it was sunk.
But you know, everything you're saying, many historians would contest it. I cannot.
No, they cannot contest it.
Once again, Professor Shivani, make your point, and then I'll come. Quickly make your point.
Well, I think we are going back to the issues that I raised right in the beginning. Yeah. You see, the question of historicity, the 2 points that Dr. Swamy has raised, on all these matters, there is no unanimity. Yeah. If he is going to say that this is the last word which has been said, then there
can't be a last word.
I'm saying that unanimity is fine.
I think the larger point is that we can't argue this based on empirical evidence. I think let's accept that and move on.
No, there is empirical evidence.
No, but Dr. Swamy, you say that.
Archaeological survey says Dwarka is under the ocean.
Alright.
And there is a project going on today.
One second. You say that. Professor Shivani says no. I think let's agree that we don't agree. We don't agree, and so we can't argue this scientifically. I just have time for very quick last comments.
You can't not agree. Dwarka, they have found a whole town under the sea.
Yeah. I'm just saying. All right. Okay. Mr. Raja and Mr. Dwivedi, just last comments.
Yes.
Give me the whole book. Professor.
I agree with Professor Srimali.
Yes.
If India... Yes. I agree with right-thinking people.
Okay, Mr. Raja.
If India is to emerge as a modern civilized nation, as you have pointed out, with people having scientific temperament, we should learn how to differentiate, demarcate mythology from history. You can't identify mythology and history together. If you go by empirical issues, I have read a book a few years ago. There was a continent after southern tip of our country. It is called as Lemuria continent, and there was land mass. Even you could cross to Australia, and if you go by such things, you can't reach anywhere.
Right.
Now this is Save the Samudram project. If this project comes up, the ships from east coast can reach west coast, not going around the Sri Lankan island.
We know this.
No.
We know this.
That is why it is important, and this project should be undertaken, and the government should not suspend the project.
Out of time now. Mr. Dwivedi, conclusion.
Yes, just 2 or 3 sentences.
Yes.
Number one, speaking of history, after having heard them, sometimes I have great respect for history, but history is too serious a thing to be left in the hands of historians.
What? I am
Take it easy, yeah?
Quickly, I have to conclude now.
Now I will conclude the way I began.
Yes.
I think that the issue now is before the government. We should respect due process and the procedure established by law. A decision will be taken.
So the court will now decide.
Taken into account every aspect. The recent controversy should not detract from the fundamental that we are a secular society. We need to develop scientific temper. Religion belongs to private domain. Faith is faith. Every political issue cannot be decided in the name of public sentiment. Which in reality is doing politicization.
I can't see any argument, sir, with that, so I will let you have that. As I don't think Mr. Prasad would disagree with anything you've said.
Only one point quickly. Only one point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Renuka, 1 second.
Genuine secularism. Not upturning Shabano judgment. Yes. Not making a Masiha of Abdul Nasir Madani. These are issues to be debated.
All right, Renuka, let me give you the last word, because you are neither with the BJP nor with the Congress in terms of your own politics.
Not at all. In fact, I just found it very amusing that Mr. Dwivedi contradicted what he said right at the beginning. He said that the government bowed to public sentiment, and that's why they went back on it. Now he said we shouldn't bow to public sentiment.
So do you see a danger that once you allow religion into politics, we are headed for disaster?
I think there should be a debate on how to handle religion within politics, because there is no doubt that this is a religious nation. So any government that makes policies has to deal with the religious sentiments of Indians.
All right. We have to conclude with that thought and with conceding that there is no consensus, much like history, there is no unanimity in this program at least on what should happen to Adams Bridge or Ram Setu, you'll call it what you want to depending on your point of view. Thank you very much. Because he went from an affidavit that said Ram doesn't exist to a press conference that said Ram does exist.
No, I think he was not only he was reflecting the public sentiment, because I think that to debate whether Ram is this is wrong, either in a court of law or in public domain, I think is doing violence to divinity that is associated with Ram.
All right.
It is that sentiment.
Okay. As far as you're concerned, you concede the Congress made a mistake. There wasn't an application of mind, and that mistake has been rectified. Ravi Shankar Prasad, why isn't that good enough? You wanted the affidavit withdrawn. It's been withdrawn. You wanted the government to concede a mistake. It's conceded a mistake. It's even put the project on review for 3 months. Beyond this, isn't BJP yet again playing politics with Ram?
Barkha, let me clarify this position in a different perspective.
Yeah.
I'm also a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I have also the experience of being a minister, including Law Minister of India at some point of time. These affidavits are not simple affidavits for the change of name. It is an affidavit on an issue which is affecting the country for the last so many months. People have positions. Now, I don't see as an error, much less as an inadvertent error, because I have the statement of the addition from India, Mr. Gopal Subramanian, who settled it. It was a teamwork.
Ram's monkey army, that Hanuman, once crossed what NASA seems to suggest are limestone shores.
Well, first of all, I must tell you that my challenge to the project was not at all based on religion.
It's not based on religion?
No. It was based on the decision of the government, which was totally arbitrary. Up to the end of the 90s, about 16 committees had sat on this question and had recommended a particular route for the canal. Suddenly the government changed it and selected this route, which was totally arbitrary. So I wanted first the court to go to the question as to why this decision was made.
So as far as you're concerned, the religious basis is not a relevant context for you?
I didn't start that. The religion was introduced by the affidavit. You see, I only said that there is a law in the country which is called the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites Act.
Okay.
Which says that any structure over 100 years is a fit case for investigation, whether it should be declared an ancient monument or not.
So you believe
and I had written to the culture minister many times saying that this Rama Setu
led UPA government seemed to do a complete and radical about turn. It went from an affidavit that said that there was no historical evidence of Lord Ram to the law minister calling a press conference and saying that as sure as the Ganga and the Himalayas are the Himalayas, Ram is Ram. Should the government, should politicians be getting into the business of either saying that Ram exists or that he doesn't?
You know, I will begin with a caveat. I think that in the past few days are a commentary on the fragility of Indian politics and the state of political discourse. What Congress government has done, Congress state government has done, is to rectify a mistake. The affidavit that was filed has to be seen is its separateness from Ram Setu project, controversy, and of course the faith. These are three different issues. Vis-a-vis the affidavit, I think there was lack of application of mind. I think there was an error of judgment. And the promptitude with which we intervened was not pandering to the religious sentiments, but responding to the public sentiment.
But should a law minister either be testifying to the existence or absence of a God? I mean, that's actually what I'm asking.
You have to see it in a particular context. Therefore, my charge with great degree of responsibility is that but for the kind of reaction which the country experienced, they had to buckle, but for that they would not have. Secondly, I would like to highlight that since you began with that, do we need to say Ram exists? Why not?
No, I'm saying should the government say that?
All right,
people have their faith, but should the government, do we need proof from the government of India?
There's no question of proof or not proof. Because if you go into that story, government is a part of society. If a question is asked of any minister or me or him, whether Ram exists or not,
okay.
Ram does beyond time and space.
Okay.
Ram is an eternal here.
Right, I get
Therefore,
your
your question is completely misplaced, I would like to say it. Because if you persist with that, that question will have to be
I'm not
asking many faiths.
I am not asking, my question is not whether Ram exists or not, my question is whether matters of faith should influence government policy. Let me put that to this side of the house. Now, Subramanian Swamy, you were the person who filed the petition that started this storm to begin with. I put it to you that faith is faith, religion is religion. In the end, dignified faith is essentially private. Are you saying to modern day India that a maritime project should be put on hold because mythology has it that Ram and a very warm welcome to We the People. How did an ambitious maritime project in the south of India get to be at the center of a national, political and religious storm? On We the People this evening, we're debating the Ram Setu Rao. It's come to be called that. It was actually the bridge officially known as Adam's Bridge, just off the coast of Tamil Nadu. But we're also looking at a wider question, and that wider question is, should religious sentiment influence government policy? And if it begins to happen that religious faith and matters of mythology begin to have an influence on policy making, is that a good thing for India or is that a bad thing? That's what we're looking at. That's the larger debate on the program this evening. I want to start with Devendra Dwivedi from the Congress. So something quite interesting happened. In the span of 48 hours, the Congress